Wonderful to be able to see all your smiling faces this afternoon. Look forward to having two good presentations today. As you're able, we'll take our seats and ask our Madam Secretary to please take the roll.
Senator Gardler, Senator Carr, Senator McDaniel, Senator Mills, Senator Southworth, Senator Storm, Senator Thomas, Senator Wheeler, Senator Wilson,
Here.
Senator Yates, Representative Baker,
Here.
Representative Beckler,
Here.
Representative Bojanowski,
Present.
Representative Branscombe,
Here.
Representative Brown, Representative Callaway,
Present.
Representative Donahue,
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Dotson, Representative Pfister,
Present.
Representative Frazier Gordon,
Here.
Representative Freeland, Representative Fugit, Representative Gooch, Representative Hale,
Present.
Representative Heath, Representative Huff,
Here.
Representative Kirk McCormick, Representative Koenig, Representative Lawrence,
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Miller, Representative Palumbo,
Here.
Representative Pollock, Representative Raymond,
Here.
Representative Reed,
Here.
Representative Roberts,
Here.
Representative Rowland, Representative Sheldon, Representative Stevenson, Representative Tackett Lafferty, Representative Tate, Representative Timoney, Representative Truitt, Representative Wesley, Representative White,
Here.
Co-Chair Schroeder, Co-Chair King,
Present.
Co-Chair Pratt.
And Representative Freeland. We do have a quorum? Thank you, Madam Secretary. We do have a quorum. Our two pieces of official business we need to take care of today are approval of our July and August minutes. If you've had a moment to look over them, I see Representative Pfister with a motion to approve. We'll call it July meeting minutes. Is there a second? And all in favor say aye. And now for the August meeting minutes, do we have a motion for approval? And a second? And all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Co-Chair Pratt is here. Excellent. Thank you very much.
We do have some people. I think they're really everybody we expected. One person with official.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We do have some registered guests that will be the bench with our two presenters. To stay in order, we'll start with our Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife and our Commissioner Rich Storm. Please come to the table with any of your guests. When you get there, there's a little button on the microphone so we can all hear your good testimony. And as we begin, if you'll introduce yourself for the record, and please proceed. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Rich Storm.
Hi, Jenny Gilbert.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, for having us here today. I was thinking about several things. We've been very busy lately at Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, and it's just been on my heart lately to talk about the enthusiasm that we have to go to work. And I've had a crummy job. I'm sure many of you all have had crummy jobs, and you get in the car and you're like, I can't wait for this to get over with. I work with a group of people that love their job, look forward to getting in their car, going to work and serve the people that we serve. And the last slide that we have is my favorite slide, so I'll just lay that out there so you'll pay attention so we can get to the last slide. But I do have the privilege to work with the finest people that I've ever been associated with in my life. To my left here, to your right, I've got Jenny Gilbert. She's been down here regularly. She's been just fantastic to work with, and she's going to handle legislative affairs and our regs moving forward. So that's a staffing update. And then behind me, I've got Gabe Jenkins, who, as of yesterday, was named our second deputy commissioner for the department. And Jenny is from Franklin County. Gabe's from Anderson County. And I've got Major McCoy here today. He promoted from captain. He's from Adair County, and so we're really happy to have him. And Ben Robinson couldn't be here today. He's a Mercer County native, and he's our acting wildlife director. So just a great group of people, and just a microcosm of the people that I get to work with each day. So this committee, you all know the mission of our agency. We're mission first. And last fall, we were in Western Kentucky, probably 20% of our staff, and we had CWD check stations. And we got a forecast that didn't look so good. I had several folks reaching out to me. You know, it looks like we're going to have some severe trees were hurt, but they were right in the path of the storm, even some just a block or two away. So immediately, our people got to work. 1/3 of our staff participated in the Western Kentucky cleanup. And again, this is outside of our mission, but a privilege that we get to just to help people in their time of need. And we didn't have to ask these people to help. They were ready to go. They were dressed to do the job. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out this is an agency-wide response. So it's law enforcement, it's information, it's marketing. Everybody that works in our agency, we're there to respond. Okay, if you would back up one slide, just point out the slides. I've got Michael Pritchard there directing traffic in Mayfield. Y'all have seen some of those pictures. And then on the right, we've got Christian Cornett and Tori Bickers. And I want to point out names just because these people, just give them a shout out. And our engineering staff, their time and equipment, they pull off boat ramps and projects, and they take equipment in this time of need. Next slide. Eastern Kentucky, very similar. We're performing the mission of the department. We've got other plans, and in an instant, those plans change. And so this is a big tribute to our law enforcement officers. We got a lot of national and statewide exposure, and you can see us in Hazard. You can see our command staff working on the plans for the day. It's search and rescue, it's recovery, providing meals, a litany of things. We've got Lieutenant Sloan on the right with Trooper Arlie Stidham in Knott County, and we provided materials and again meals, transportation, etc. And 56 of our Kentucky conservation officers were in Eastern Kentucky. Some of you may have seen these pieces. We had officers on national news and then statewide news. Ethan Vincent is on the left side of the screen, and then Glenn Griffey is on the right side of the screen. And those guys allowed reporters to go out with them and show our efforts in Eastern Kentucky. And again, a lot of things changed, and with 6 hours of flooding, all of our priorities changed. Something that stands out to me, and I spent a lot of time in Eastern Kentucky, and is a blessing to me because I could help people. We were able to provide meals to a lot of folks. The World Kitchen asked us to help them, and we provided 32,818 meals in Eastern Kentucky, 2,670 sandwiches, 297 cases of water, multiple cleaning supplies and rides, and you name it, and just some heartfelt stories that we had there. Technician Ryan Jones is delivering candy there to that little girl. She looks, pretty happy in her time of need there. And then Deputy Commissioner Clark and I, we were able to go down with the I&E staff and a backhoe, bulldozer, and get a number of things done there. And a big shout out to Mike Strunk, our regional coordinator down there, who did some great work for us. So on the theme of changes for our agency, CWD has been a topic of discussion, and last year, I know Representative Freeland, we had multiple discussions about what was going on in Western Kentucky and a number of legislators. We still have not found chronic wasting disease in Kentucky, but the important thing for us to note is we're going to have those same regulations in place this session that we did last year, and this is an aggressive effort just to sample those animals harvested. And I will say the general consensus with the hunters was very positive, and they seemed like they wanted to comply, and we had better than 95% compliance with this last year. And so we have a lot of honest people that buy hunting and fishing licenses, and they try to do the right thing. And I'm sure y'all get reports that there's a lot of folks that try to do the wrong thing, or that's the story here. But we're serving a constituency that's trying to help us, to be successful. Next slide. So we just recently got a call. We didn't want to get this call either, but in southeastern Kentucky, we've kind of been put on alert that just in Claiborne County that there's a possible a suspect case, and so we're going to implement voluntary instead of mandatory, but voluntary check stations in Bell and Harlan counties. And again, it has not been detected. And so if you know anybody in those counties that deer hunt, we would encourage them to bring their animal out there, but again, it's not going to be required. And this is a short notice approach, but it's disappointing to think that we're dealing with that in the West, and we're thinking maybe it's going to creep along, and then you find it in the far east, which Claiborne County is just due south of Bell. That's it's pretty concerning for us. But again, we're going to do our best to get samples, and we'll notify you if we find anything out. Kentucky Wild, those of you that don't hunt and fish, this is a great way to partner with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. I think that this is a program that's necessarily going to grow. It's going to be something that I think is going to be a huge part of our agency in time. One of the coolest experiences, I got to go out with some biologists one day, and I went to a bat cave, and I told them if I cried that they were tears of joy. But in all fairness, when we went into this cave, I got to see bats that were hibernating, and some of them had telemetry collars and bands, like bird bands, and so we can tell where they live in the summer in Pennsylvania and where they winter in Kentucky, and that is it's just nature at its finest. And frankly, I was just in awe all day. I didn't shed any tears. I didn't have any bats laying on my face, or they weren't very active, fortunately. But modern day conservation success story, Indiana bats are making a comeback. And so if you want to partner with Kentucky Wild and Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, we have a lot of outdoor experiences. And if you'd like to go out on one of these excursions, it may not be just hunting and fishing that you enjoy and you want to broaden your horizons, but we truly do have a lot to offer when it comes to this program, and the member experiences are fantastic. So recently at the Kentucky State Fair, we have a lot of information. We had people come to use our shooting range, and we had 30,000 pellets shot through our air rifle. We had 122 people that went to the State Fair that got certified to be their hunter education card. So that was really good, and we got to see a number of y'all at the Kentucky State Fair. And the Kentucky Wild program, we've almost raised $500,000. Hey, when it comes to fish stocking, those of you in Jefferson County, we're stocking 12,000 trout in Floyd's Fork. And that's been a really popular initiative and a really good opportunity, so I'd encourage you to check that out. Some of you have been out, you've been on fish stockings with us, and we stock approximately 6 million fish in Kentucky waters. And then we have our Fishing in the Neighborhoods program, our Fins Lakes. We have 45 of those lakes in 28 counties, and these are usually in high population areas. And so last year alone, we stocked 120,000 15-inch catfish, 120,000 10-inch trout, and 9,000 7-inch bluegill. So a lot of fun for families, and provided a lot of meals as well. Comes to carp, we continue to set records. I love our commercial fishermen, and there's a number of families now that are making a way to provide for their family by becoming commercial fishermen. And so in the last year, we've harvested 10 million pounds out of Kentucky waters. That's a lot. When I started here, we had a few million pounds we were pulling out per year. And so this is becoming a relevant industry. And these commercial fishermen are increasingly happy with our efforts. And we've had a lot of federal assistance, and we've had a lot of assistance from you all as well here in the General Assembly. But our commercial fishermen are truly to thank for these success stories. Back in August, we had the opportunity to get out on Paintsville Lake. We had some just outstanding partners that passionate about bass fishing, and they asked us how we could work together to put some habitat out on Paintsville Lake. We went out with them in 58 different locations, and you don't have to know them to find these locations. You can get the coordinates on our website, but these habitat structures immediately become places you can fish and have success. They don't have to be there for years, but it provides cover and habitat for fisheries. So in this particular project, we had anglers, Paintsville Lake in general. We had a lot of folks that have a lot of passion to go out and bass fish, and this is teamwork at its best. We also have on the right there, I didn't point out, the Barren River Lake. We're in the 4th year of a habitat project there. And when I started this job, I had a number of complaints about Barren River Lake that it's not producing. I'm not getting those calls now. I'm getting people saying I'm catching a lot of fish on Barren. So it's good stuff, but remember, you can go to fw.ky.gov and you can search GPS coordinates for this habitat structure. So one of the things, if you have social media, I encourage you to like us or follow us. We started at the Great Outdoors News. This has been very popular. We do this weekly. We talk about things that are going on in the state. You can see the Green River Fishing Pier, the Barren River Lake pier there as well. These spots have been utilized by the public, and we've had great partnerships there as well. But these Great Outdoor News pieces, we know that not everybody knows what we're doing. And so this is a great way to connect, and we've got people all over the state that have enjoyed these pieces. So you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I don't do all that. Next slide. All right, so you're probably going to say, where'd y'all come up with these names? So high, moderate, and low management areas. These are properties that we have in the state. People were asking us to do different things throughout the state, and you can see we have a lot of different properties and geographically all over the state. And so the level at which we manage those properties, we thought it was good to communicate this to the public. And these aren't rest areas, they look like it. But to let people know what to expect when they go. For example, if you say, why would you have a low management level wildlife management area? Well, maybe it's small. Maybe we don't have the staffing, or perhaps we don't have the terrain. And then why would you have a high management level? Well, for example, Ballard Wildlife Management Area, we've got the ability to flood timber, flood cropland. We can plant crops, and we have a number of staff there. So Simon Kenton and Mason County would be an example of a low management level. Kleber here local would be an example of a moderate. And then Clay WMA in my home county, which is a place I've been my whole life, is a high level. And we used to have property managers that lived on those properties, the high level management, but today we don't do that. But Ballard, and anyway, utilize that map, and you can, if you have any questions about these management areas and the strategies, I'd be glad to share that with you. So prescribed burning, it's something that I believe in. I truly believe that we have untapped potential. If you live in southeast Kentucky and you've seen the autumn olive and a lot of the invasive species, and then places we can't get tractors and bush hogs, this is a solution to create ideal habitat. And so with a good management plan, if we can burn things on 2, 3, and 4 year cycles, then we can we can set this back years, we can kill invasive species, and then we can have that ideal habitat that wildlife species need to thrive. If you'd like to check that out sometime, I'd love to show you what we do with prescribed fire, and we even do that here in Franklin County on our campus. That was important to point out bear hunting in Kentucky. So relatively new. We opened the season in 2009, and to date we approximately harvest about 100 black bears in Kentucky. We didn't stock black bears. They stocked themselves, and they came from neighboring states. And I'd say a number of you have had calls in your districts, almost the entire state, that there's a bear on the prowl. And so this is going to expand, and I think with some new additions to hunting this year, we're not going to have quotas. We're going to have a season structure similar to what you'd have with deer or elk. And so this is something that I would expect all of you to have a few calls when it comes to bears at some point in time. And there's a wonderful resource that you can check out, bearwise.org, and you can find out a lot of information. And obviously the population that we have right now in Kentucky that's the largest is in southeast Kentucky, but a transient male can move 60 to 80 miles, and that's not a unlikely scenario, but generally they go back where they came from. So when it comes to Kentucky elk, this is always something that people enjoy to talk about. We have a drawing in Kentucky, and we have 16 counties where we have elk, and actually 15 counties where we have elk hunting and 16 counties where we have elk. But last year we celebrated 2 of the top 10 elk harvest, which is exciting when that continues to happen. And then it's also our 25th anniversary of elk restoration in Kentucky. And for those of you that get those phone calls that I want to hunt a Kentucky elk, but I apply every year and I haven't been drawn, that number now is 72. There's 72 folks that have applied every year and not been drawn. And next year we have a loyalty program. Those 72 hunters, as long as they continue to apply, they're going to automatically be selected. And so we're going to chip away at that number, and I hope to be like Ed McMahon. I get to knock on their door, and I bring the tag out, and today's your lucky day. But needless to say, we're excited about our elk program. We're also excited that the folks that have been our longest customers are going to have some relief and an opportunity to go out and hunt Kentucky elk. So last year, I'm going to say we nearly finished. I don't anticipate we're going to be relocating any more elk in Kentucky, but we moved 43 elk to McCreary County, and so that's the 16th county. We don't allow hunting yet. There will be hunting in McCreary County someday, but we want to get this herd established. And so if you like to watch outdoor videos, I strongly encourage you to check out this Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation video. I did send it to a few of you, but this is just a really nice piece that some of our partners were able to produce. And it also gives a little bit of perspective on what has been achieved, the amount of work that went into this. And I mean, can you imagine we had staff that took Kentucky Fish and Wildlife trucks and trailers to Utah and loaded up over 1,500 of these animals from out west and drove them back to Kentucky and turned them loose. That's just really an awesome story to be able to celebrate and to bring a species back into Kentucky that was originally here. I think that's about it on that slide. Another cool thing, this is just hot off the press, but we're going to have this fishing pole loaner station. And I think you heard about our life jacket loaner stations last year. But this fishing pole loaner program, we're going to be in public libraries, UK Extension. And we had a call yesterday that 4-H wanted to participate in this. So you can see geographically we've got some pretty good representation as far as this is concerned. And then keep in mind, if somebody wants to fish here in Franklin County, or you want to fish during legislative session, you can come out and fish in our pond at headquarters. Okay. So I didn't get this in the slide before, but this is a picture of our latest recruit class, law enforcement. And so just wanted to point that out. But if you all know anybody that's interested in becoming a conservation officer, that application period closes tomorrow. And we have several applications at this point, but we'd love for you to let folks know that if you know anybody that's looking for a career in law enforcement. And then, frankly, this is prime time for our agency when it comes to outdoor activity. I mean, it's deer season we're in deer season, but we've got youth gun season coming up. It's a great time to go fishing. Great time to get out and go to a club and have fellowship and meet people, and then get your hunter education card. It's never been easier. You can do almost all of it online. And then our quota hunt application period ends soon. And fall fishing opportunities are fantastic. And if you want to talk about hunting or fishing, I'd be glad to do it. But this is a slide you've all been waiting for. This 7-year-old boy caught 8.5 pound bass. Folks, this is what we do. These are the people that we work for. This is families making memories. And I'll tell you, I've never even come close to catching a bass that size. And so I don't know where he goes from here. But I usually catch them about the size of my bait. But anyway, it's really fun to get out of bed every morning, go to work, serve this type of constituency, serve a General Assembly that supports us, a customer base that routinely has an 80 to 90% satisfaction rating with our agency. And these days, those numbers are kind of unheard of because it seems as if people are always divided. But this is what brings people together. And so we're proud to serve. We're excited about the future of Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, and I couldn't be more proud of my people, by the way, that helped put this presentation together. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you keeping it on that slide of that precious young man right there. I love his smile. Look at that smile. That's a genuine smile. And he is not taking advantage of what sometimes our family does, is you extend your fish out to make it look bigger. Look, he's got his little elbow right at his side, so he's not extending his fish to make it look even larger. But I appreciate you showing him, and yes, that is why we do what we do. I appreciate you all being here today. I was wanting the committee and the public to know exactly how vitally important you all were during the recovery, the initial days, and probably continuing on now during the Eastern Kentucky floods. Can you speak, and Miss Jenny was so wonderful to keep me updated via email as we were progressing in those first weeks. Do you have any of the initial numbers of recovery, or how your agency participated in that initial recovery?
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask Major McQuarrie to come up, and maybe he could chime in on the law enforcement portion of that. And I do have some numbers, but I'll tell you, I was there the first day of the flood, and I went out with some law enforcement officers on a search and rescue. I've never done that in my life, and it's frustrating to be looking for somebody you can't find. I didn't know what I was doing, certainly compared to these trained officers, and the intensity of that, the situation you're in, you don't wake up prepared to do that. It's something I can tell you I really value our people, and then the recovery. When you do find somebody and they've perished, that's something our people have to deal with. And so it's a total service. It's search and rescue. It's helping people in that time of need. But I can tell you we're blessed to have the trained individuals that can go out in that specialty and say, "Hey, Commissioner, you need to be looking here, not here." But that's something I'll take home with me from now on. But could you speak to some of the specific numbers?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Just for the record, please introduce yourself and then please carry on.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
My name's Major Jeremy McQuarrie. I don't know exactly how many recoveries we were responsible for as a whole. It was a collaborative effort between statewide emergency management as well as other law enforcement agencies across the state, but we are responsible for working all drownings in public waters in the state, and that number is approximately 33.
I'd like to add too that I think it's really important. Two of the stories that we heard in those weeks from our directors, and that the commissioner was really on the ground each day, kind of communicating back with staff, that are just really interesting. Our engineering and IT group was there with the equipment, like the commissioner spoke about, and our conservation officers kept getting flat tires, if I remember correctly, just because of the amount of debris that was in the road. And the local stores could not accommodate fixing, those flat tires, understandably, because most of them were still underwater. And so the commissioner had our engineering group take tires off of department vehicles that were surplus that, we just hadn't gotten rid of yet. And we're able to take those tires to Eastern Kentucky and put them on the vehicles in order to get back on the road pretty quickly, which was just a really amazing story about how inventive or creative, using that critical thinking in times of distress or emergency to get people back out there helping quickly. And then I'd like you to tell the story of the zip line. Do you remember that? I think that's wonderful. They were out trying to deliver meals and could not get across the creek. It had been rising so high. So you correct me, because I'm just going to talk.
You tell the story.
And so I believe regional staff was working with our conservation officers, and they came back by later and said, wait a minute, how are you going to get across here? And they said, well, some of your guys came by before and they just rigged up a zip line across the creek. And so they were literally hooking the food in bags on one side and letting it zip line across to the families so that they could have meals who had not been fed in several days. And I just think that's a wonderful testament, again, not only to the work that they did, but just that they were able to really think quickly and use that critical thinking in a time of emergency to get help to our people.
Absolutely. Very good. Commissioner, is there anyone else in the audience you would like to come to the table before we get to questions? If you've got anyone else you need to. Okay. Well, we will jump into questions. The first is Representative Fraser Gordon.
Thank you all for being here today, and I have a question and a comment, if I may.
Of course.
Thanks for all the programs that you're involved in. I wanted to also highlight another program, the Becoming an Outdoor Woman. I've had the opportunity to participate in a couple of those, and one was a forage of learning the difference between good berries and bad berries, and different weeds and that type of thing. So that was interesting. And then also kayak fishing, which I don't think those two things should go together. But anyway, it was a fun day. But my question is also in regards to the bear hunting graphic that you displayed, and I was just wondering, I noticed in the past couple of years there's been a significant uptick in that, and coincidentally, our friend Tommy Turner also retired during that period, and I was just wondering if there's a positive causal relationship between those two.
Yeah, I can tell you, I don't think anybody enjoys bear hunting more than Representative Turner, and he's a regular, and he's always asking me about what's going on with bear season, but the truth is we have a very robust and huntable population, and we continually have issues with trash, with bears being in places that we really don't want them to be. But that's why I would encourage y'all to use the Bear Wise to make sure that we can coexist to the best of our ability. But Tommy Turner and bear hunting, they run hand in hand, and he just needs a coonskin cap to wear around when we see him. Yeah.
Very good. Representative Freeland.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Storm, for being here and for that testimony. And I also just wanted to thank you and your department for your help and assistance and great work during the December 10th tornadoes back in western Kentucky, and also on the invasive carp. And I know you and I've spoke several times on this and how important that is to my district. I live on Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, and almost 9 million pounds of carp were taken out last year, and it's amazing, and it's made a huge difference in our area. It's for not only the anglers but for tourism, and that's so important to our region and to my counties. But I just wanted to say thank you, and also creating a new industry, as you mentioned, the commercial fishermen. I mean, that's getting to be a big industry in our area. And also you didn't mention, but Bo Jackson, the former NFL player, last winter opened up one of the processing plants in Marshall County. So I think you were down. I was up here, so I didn't get to go, but I think you were down for that. But just
Yeah.
thank you for all your work.
Well, thanks for pointing that out, and that's exciting. And I just wish I could have met Bo Jackson when I was a kid. Really, and not that I was disappointed now, but he asked me if I wanted to go eat, and I said, well, I guess I look like somebody that does like to go eat. And so, but I got to spend some time with him. That was a blessing. But I'll tell you some of my experiences on the water with commercial fishermen. Those people are tough. They are tough people, and I kind of had to get mad at the fish to act, to do like them. I'm trying to be real careful and cautious, and those people work a hard day, men and women both, in Western Kentucky, and we're blessed to have them.
Senator Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to also chime in about what a great commissioner we have. I know I have a constituent in Pike County that was drawn for the elk hunt that was an elderly individual, and he can't brag enough on Commissioner Storm how he went over and above to try to enable him to hunt. I still think it kind of fell through, but no fault of the commissioners. He's greatly appreciative for all his efforts. But one thing that he did mention to me, and I'm glad we're on the subject, obviously, I guess the way the current lottery is, you're drawn for a particular zone in a particular area of the state. And so, for example, somebody in a zone outside of their immediate area, or maybe drawn for a zone outside of their immediate area, while somebody several counties away might be drawn for the zone within that other person's area where they live. Has there been any consideration by the Department of Fish and Wildlife to allow people to maybe trade those between, folks that are drawn so that, people could hunt closer to their homes?
I think that's one of the best questions you could ask about the drawing. I think it only makes sense for us to have that ability, and I can say that 25 years of restoration, 20 years of hunting, we've learned a lot, and we didn't always have that conceptual zone. We had different formats, and so I think we find flaws within what we have. So for lack of a better term, I would like to see a trading post where a 2 could swap with a 4, and it just a trade. Because the reason we have the zones is we try to take pressure. We have 7 zones. We try to take pressure off of the highest populated areas where people would tend to go in the past, which that was a flaw that we had. People tended to just go where they would maybe see more elk and hunt that population really hard and push them out of an area. So yes, absolutely something that we want to see happen in the future, and we want to be customer friendly at the end of the day. Absolutely.
Well, I think you're all already customer friendly, but I think that friendlier and a more successful operation. But I appreciate all you do, sir.
Well, thank you.
Representative Wesley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to brag on Jenny. Last year, she said that she was very nervous, and we watched her present her first bill. She has become a pro.
Thank you.
But I would also like to add to what Madam Chair asked about the rescues in eastern Kentucky. And I never got to talk to the commissioner about this because I was there on day 1 too. And we had a guy stuck on a roof, and nobody could get to him. We got a hold of the EOC, and they sent a National Guard to fly in there, and they couldn't get to him because of too many trees. And we reached out to Fish and Wildlife, and within about 10 minutes, I get a call. And they said, we got the guy off the roof, and I just wanted to thank you for that. Now, Commissioner Storm's the type of guy that he will give everyone a shout-out but himself. And he brought many air conditioners to us for our elderly, a lot of cleaning supplies, and we thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. And those, by the way, just to set that record straight, those were donations and churches and people that we networked with. They weren't department supplies or materials. Yeah.
Thank you. Representative Kirk McCormick.
Thank you, Lady Chairman. I have actually 2 questions. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on the disease of the deer in the West? I have deers that play in my yard on a daily basis. What can we expect, and how soon do you think that it'll spread into the other areas of the deers?
Well, this will. I try to be really direct. I think most of y'all know that. This may sound a little bit vague. There's no telling when we would get it. when and even how. I think the nature of it, if we compare it to other diseases, when you have something that's not symptomatic, you could have a perfectly healthy animal that could move a tremendous distance. And I'm very interested in the movement of wild animals, and I know that during a rut, a year-and-a-half-old buck could theoretically go 30, 40, even 50 miles. I saw telemetry where a buck in Iowa went 70 miles. So that's not ordinary, but if we have detected it within miles of the Kentucky border, deer tend to stay where they're fed, where they're able to live, where life's sustainable and abundant. And so it's just a matter of time before we have that crossover where we have that symptomatic case. And so to understand deer, even elk, because elk fall in the cervid family, it's impossible to determine the way that disease moves. Now, we've had natural protection from the Ohio River for a large part of our state, but we've got it knocking on our door in the west and the east. And so to give you an answer, I expect to get that call. I expect to get that call while I'm here. But that's us being ready for come what may. But chronic wasting disease is not something that there's a cure for. There's no treatment. There's no mineral. It changes everything. And we've been blessed that we're one of the few in the lower 48 that has not detected it. But I'm proud that we have gone above and beyond in testing. We've tried to find it. And I think sometimes states don't necessarily try to find it. So we want to do our due diligence for public health. We want to do our due diligence because we know it's the right thing to do, and we'll be as transparent as we can be through this process. And our hunters have been champions for us. And so not a great answer, but this is a challenge that I promise you, whoever's in my seat in the future, they're going to deal with this. It's going to be something that is going to change everything when it comes to deer hunting in Kentucky. And now this is a destination state. Keep that in mind. We have people that want to come here to deer hunt, and part of the reason why is we have such a healthy herd. And so if we can continue to monitor and hunt to healthy populations, then that's a win for our state. It's not the end of the world when that day comes, but it's a huge change for the future of our agency and really the future of fish and wildlife agencies across America.
Thank you. A lot of our people eat deer. I mean, that's their meat source in my area, and I know tons of hunters, and they look forward to deer season. So, if you recall the blue tongue disease that killed a lot, and then majority of your people just stopped hunting deer. I mean, nobody would eat the deer. So is this going to be something similar or?
Not really. Blue tongue or EHD is a virus, and it usually happens quickly. The animal, if it perishes, will perish relatively quickly, and chronic wasting disease can take a year or two to develop, and usually that animal's going to become emaciated. And there is no live test. That's one thing I should have pointed out, but there's no live test, and with no live test, you can't determine until you've got a sample of a dead animal. So that's the challenge that all the states have.
Thank you. Second question I have, just real quickly, I'm a retired vocational rehab counselor, and when you mention jobs, what are some of the qualifications for the conservation officers where you have positions open? Are you requiring a degree in that field?
We're not, but do you want to touch on that, Major?
We do not require a degree any longer. It's 21 years of age and a high school diploma.
Thank you.
Or GED.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Hale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of brief questions. Major, or comment first, thank you all for your efforts in the rescue efforts down there. You guys do a tremendous job. We've got the best law enforcement officers in the country here, and our conservation officers in Kentucky, and I just wanted you to know that and appreciate your efforts there. And thank you, Commissioner Storm. You're doing a great job in your position. Just a couple of quick questions on the Representative Freeland mentioned the harvest there of the commercial fishermen, and I think the actual total was a little over 10 million pounds, if that's what the slides said. My question is the market still strong? The purchasers, the people that are purchasing that, is that still a strong market?
It is. It's a subsidized market, and each state may have a little different approach the way they handle that. I would actually say that the market's going to continue to get stronger. I think subsidies will go up. These folks that are catching these fish and they're established, they're telling me, Commissioner, we're doing well with this. Don't take the subsidy away. As a matter of fact, we're recruiting people to get out here and catch these fish. Now, it is a bit more attractive to catch these Asian carp in the lakes. The Ohio River is different. It's really different. That source could be a challenge. That may be a foolish quote, but if we're fishing Barkley and Kentucky heavily, which is again the intention, most of these folks don't have the intention to go to the Ohio River. And so if that source and that ability to catch those fish, is that number going to be 10 million pounds? Is that going to be what we can expect to pull out, or is 20 million pounds? We don't know that yet. But the subsidies that Kentucky has, that Tennessee has, surrounding states, it's been attractive enough to keep that market viable and growing.
And then one other question. Well, thank you for that response. And then one other question. You mentioned on the CWD disease, you mentioned a county, Claiborne County. Is that in Tennessee or Virginia? That's
in Tennessee, and if you drew a straight line, even though it's close proximity to Bell County, I'm not sure the mileage is less than 10. Yeah. You've got to go through Virginia, that tip of Virginia, to get to Kentucky. So even though it's close proximity, that specimen would have had to travel through the mountains across into Bell County. So I'm not saying that's a plus, but it's very close, less than 10 miles.
So they actually, it was discovered in an animal in Claiborne County.
Basically called suspect not confirmed. And so I've never heard that terminology before. I've called it kin to COVID test. You had one positive and the other one's negative. And so what we know is they have a suspect case, and I think probable is probably a better terminology.
And if I could just follow up real quickly, the bear numbers, that's tremendous. I really am glad to see that. The elk numbers. I go back as a former employee of this department. 25 years ago, 1997, I remember that. I was a part of the department's work in that at that time, getting those elk brought in here in Kentucky. Not me personally, but involved in the department's efforts for that to happen, and it's turned into a great resource for Kentucky. And in my area, and also in Representative White's area there around the Cave Run Lake area, we are seeing a lot of black bear in that area, tremendous amount of black bear right around the Cave Run Lake area. I get reports of them all the time. A lot of us have the cameras out and we see them. So there's getting to be a huge population right up as they migrate up toward the northeast Kentucky. There's a large population of them. I think probably a lot more than most people think, but there's a lot of them there. But thank you for what you do, and you're doing a great job in the position. And thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Representative Tackett-Lafferty, please.
Thank you. First, I'd like to just begin by echoing my thanks for your efforts in Eastern Kentucky. And as Jenny was stating, it's very difficult to see some of the things when you're on the ground those first few days and first few weeks. It's hard to imagine that someone who's working in the heat to clean mud out of their homes would have to be told that the nearest bag of ice is nearly an hour away. And you just don't think about those things unless you're involved in it. So thank you for your agency's efforts. After the flooding, we appreciate all the help that we've received. I also want to say thank you. I know that we have been working toward an interagency agreement, and I want to say thank you as well to the folks in the room who were a part of that meeting, and your promptness and your willingness to work with parks to try to move that that project forward. And this is at my park, Jenny Wiley Resort Park. And right now, Jenny Wiley is doing another very important purpose, housing, our homeless from the flood. But I just wanted to say thank you, because I recognize the efforts between both agencies to try to work toward. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And again, some of the things that I saw in the first 24 hours, went to a shelter, and the folks there, they still had mud on their clothes. You think, well, why don't they just change their clothes? Well, they don't have any clothes. They don't have any clothes to change. They don't have a shower they can take. And I took cattle water tanks to eastern Kentucky, things that were sitting on the farm. We filled them up with water, and we took them to eastern Kentucky, things that people needed, and they were thankful that they were able to take a bath out of a jug. And that, again, small stuff, but that was a way we could help, and we were blessed to be able to do that.
Thank you.
We had 4 folks sign up on the guest list. Is there anyone in the audience that had something to say about this presentation that hasn't already? We appreciate you so very much. I hope the committee and the public listening in sees what a tremendous asset you are and the great work that you've been doing in normal times and throughout these 2 tragedies. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to having you back real soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, we will ask Representative Tackett Lafferty, one of our faithful committee members, to approach the bench, the table, with her guest. This will be a presentation on the Eastern Kentucky tourism and how they've been affected, I think, by some of the flooding, and we look forward to their information. Good afternoon. Thank you, Representative. Would you please, just for the record, introduce yourself and your guests for the record, and please proceed.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I think I would have remembered that by now. The green light needs to be on when you're speaking. Of course, I am Ashley Tackett Lafferty, and
would you mind to pull that just a little closer?
Sure. And I proudly serve the 95th District, which includes both Pike and Floyd County. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by the Mayor of Prestonsburg, Les Stapleton, alongside our lovely Director of Prestonsburg Tourism, Samantha Johnson. I'm also very excited to have joining us the Mayor of the City of Pikeville, Jimmy Carter, and the talented representatives from Pikeville Tourism, Paul Bowles and Lauren McCoy. You will see these folks will be presenting later on in our meeting. But before I hand it over to the presenters, I would like to first sincerely thank the committee chair, Representative King, and our co-chair for allowing us the opportunity to give you an update on tourism in Eastern Kentucky today, and more particularly to highlight what we're doing in the 95th District. As you all know, recently, Eastern Kentucky has quite literally, in many spots, been washed away by severe flooding. While I often refer to my district as the centerpiece on the table between Red River Gorge and the Breaks Interstate Park, today I can't send enough praise out to Jenny Wiley State Resort Park. Our beautiful park, as I said earlier, now serves another beautiful purpose in our community. It houses the homeless who were displaced from their homes during the flood. It also serves, our campground also serves as a site for travel trailers. We want to keep talking about what recovery looks like in Eastern Kentucky, and that's one of the reasons why we're most excited to be here today, to talk about all the great things that we've not only done, but also to talk about our road moving forward and our focus on the future. So to begin, I will ask Mayor Stapleton to stay with me, and for Samantha to come up and give you her presentation on the City of Prestonsburg.
Very good. As you begin your presentation, just introduce yourself for the record and we'll carry on.
Yes, my name's Les Stapleton. I'm lucky enough to be the mayor of Prestonsburg, Kentucky. Tourism has been a big asset to us. I got my administration in place in 2015, in the middle of the coal decline, and tourism was a very great opportunity for us to capitalize on it. And I was fortunate enough to have a very dynamic executive director of Prestonsburg Tourism, Samantha Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also, he's been laughing at me because I've done this everywhere we've gone in the last week. Also want to thank Mayor Stapleton, who is the RISE Award recipient from the Kentucky League of Cities, which is a representation of integrity and encouragement of your people. So you guys have a star here with you today. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to come and share a variety of things happening in Eastern Kentucky. As you just heard, it's no surprise that Eastern Kentucky has certainly faced a dynamic amount of devastation, and through that there have been really beautiful stories that happen. But within tourism, I do think I have probably the best job in the world, and part of that's because my job is bringing the good news places, and that's very encouraging at times. So I know we are in Frankfort today, but I would love to welcome you guys through pictures to Eastern Kentucky. I know here in Central Kentucky, you guys certainly hear a lot when it comes to tourism, when it comes to bourbon or horses. But when we travel east, we're going to discuss a little bit more. We're a little more on the moonshine and really great music and amazing mountain views just like this. This is one of my favorite places within Prestonsburg at Sugar Camp Mountain Trails. So I know I'm preaching to the choir to this committee, but I always like to just cover the base of what is tourism. And in a nutshell, the simplest way to describe it is tourism is a brand new dollar in your community that would not be there otherwise. Without tourism, you just have a bunch of recirculation of dollars. So our job is to find those new dollars and bring them into us. Floyd County and Prestonsburg certainly did a pretty good job of that in the last year. So this is the report from Kentucky Department of Tourism for 2021. We had an economic impact for tourism of over $53 million in Floyd County alone. Not only is that a great number, but that is a nearly $10 million increase from the previous year. We also saw 352 jobs as well as $9 million in income generated for Eastern Kentucky residents. That's pretty amazing. This is, of course, off the calendar year, but especially even as we look into our fiscal year from July to June, Prestonsburg Tourism saw one of their best years to date. And that's pretty amazing being this close out from COVID. So we're very proud of that. So who's bringing in this money for us in our region? We've got a variety of visitor and our demographic for our visitor profile. So, of course, one aspect of that, as you saw in one of the earlier pictures at the overlook, is the family traveler and the adventurist. And this is something we saw a huge spike to from 2020 on. So we have, whether it be retired folks or people looking for a great outdoor adventure with their families, especially when it comes to the adventurist now, we have the best mountain biking in the state of Kentucky, right in Prestonsburg at Sugar Camp. But I do want to commend and state that we saw, as you can imagine, when 2020 started, everything closed. So the way people saw their vacation spot or saw their getaway altered pretty quickly, and people wanted to feel safe, but they also wanted to breathe a little bit and get outside. And I love the lakes, but I tell you, I think Eastern Kentucky mountains provide the best outdoor experience in the state of Kentucky. And people came to us, and as we saw this huge influx in visitation, especially at a very difficult time where it was very back and forth, you are only as good as your infrastructure can support. And we were ready for the business when it showed up. So when we talk about outdoor adventure, our trail systems were ready. Wiley State Park, they already know how to create a great experience. They already have the trail system available. They already have the fishing system available. Sugar Camp Mountain Trail, the signage was there. We work off mainly a volunteer committee for our Sugar Camp, which is over 30 miles of trails that are relatively pretty new in our area, and they were ready. They had the mapping, our attractions, our hotel hotels and lodging were ready to keep people safe. Our restaurants were ready to accommodate, sometimes a very short notice at times, of how do we cater to the visitor in the best way possible. So in addition to those small groups, we also have a very strong market in the group travel industry. And group travel looks a couple different ways. On one side, it could be those family reunions, those school reunions. As you can imagine, in Eastern Kentucky, we like our family reunions. Those are fun, and we do very well with that. But it's also the motor coach industry. Eastern Kentucky really thrives with group travel and motor coaches. So Kentucky as a whole, as you probably know, is most strongly a drive market. So Kentucky is accessible within a day's drive to 70% of the entire country. And Eastern Kentucky especially, we don't have a huge access to nearby airports, so drive markets are our bread and butter. And so motor coaches, those see, instead of just a small group of, say, 3 to 4 people, when you can attract a motor coach, you have anywhere from 25 to 55 people at one time, filling your restaurants, your attractions, your hotels all together. This is one group, actually, and just in the last 2 weeks, we've just had 2 motor coaches. One left yesterday. One group was from the northern United States, and then it was a great pleasure. We just had Western Kentucky come on over. We don't normally see groups from our own state. So we just had them for 3 days in our neck of the woods, and a great time. And while they're here, of course, they go to our typical attractions like the Mountain Arts Center, the East Kentucky Science Center, Loretta Lynn's Butcher Holler, but we also believe in showing them the region, and we have a great ability to do that. So we visit Pike County, we visit Johnson County, Letcher County, we even go into Louisa now. And when you see a bus, so I'm sure most of you guys see those at times, even in your own community, it is in our best interest to be as hospitable as possible. Not only is Kentucky great at that naturally, but for a day trip, if they don't even spend the night, a motor coach will on average invest $8,000 in a community in a single day. If they spend the night, that jumps to $10,000 to $15,000 on average per day. It's a great business, right? And so not only do we just use our attractions that are in the place, but we also reach out to our best asset, which is our storytellers. So this image you guys see, this is our Moonshine Tour, which is, as you can imagine, a favorite for our groups. So we partner up with local historians and musicians, and we bring the story to life. And so here they're out learning the history of moonshine and how it came to be, and then they go on up and they have a great, this is actually at the state park, and then they go on up to the Pines building to have a great barbecue supper with a bluegrass band, and they get to dance and sing and learn how to play the washboards and spoons, and then they of course get to sample Kentucky's best moonshine along the way too. This is just another experience at the Mountain Arts Center they get to have. So in addition to who our visitor is, how we're continuing to grow tourism in Eastern Kentucky is through new events and the ongoing development of our in-place attractions. So for example, this is the Appalachian Art and Entertainment Awards that just came to fruition in Prestonsburg, and we're very thankful to be the host city of that at this time. So this first started in 2021, and of course, State of the World, that was virtual. And in 2022, April of this year, we were able to finally welcome everybody in for that. The Appalachian Art and Entertainment Awards is a celebration of all of Appalachia and our place in it. So it's open to all 13 states of the Appalachian Range. People talk a lot about how do we change the narrative of Eastern Kentucky or the stereotype of Eastern Kentucky. And I'm a firm believer that, well, instead of focusing on changing the narrative, how about we focus on changing the storytellers? And we have the ability to do that. And that's exactly what the Appies, as it's called, creates. And we're very thankful for Governor Beshear and Secretary Mike Berry and Rocky Atkins, who have all supported this over the last couple years. But in this, we had 9 of the 13 Appalachian states represented for this night. We also had, in total, 14 of the United States represented during this, and we were at a 99.8% occupancy in Prestonsburg. So it was an absolutely phenomenal time. It's won several equity and diversity awards, and actually they were just invited to attend in a couple weeks NPR's annual conference in Florida. So they're going to be taking the story of the Appies to the rest of the country. But it has over 50 categories of artistry that we are celebrating of our Appalachian people, and it's pretty amazing. Ongoing, so we mentioned Sugar Camp Mountain Trails. We were very fortunate to become a host city to the Bluegrass Mountain Cup in 2021, and then also again in 2022. We have been able to host one of those series, which is a national qualifying race. In April, it was pretty cool. We were able to, we also had some of the best mountain bikers in the country here. The #1 mountain biker from Arizona. He's in the country, and from Arizona, he flew in. He, of course, won, and very quickly, and he did a great job. But we're excited to see this continue. In October, they are partnering, of course, with the state park and Sugar Camp, which is a city-state, a dual attraction and partnership to make those trails happen. And we will be able to host one of the state's only enduro races, and it's a real tough one, but it's going to be an amazing process. They're at capacity and now to a wait list, basically, to be able to do this event. But as we look forward thinking, like Representative Lafferty mentioned, not just looking at what we have now. We're very proud of what we have now, but we've got to keep going forward of what does this mean for us in the future, is we would love to see the development of beginner-friendly trails. This is the best trail system for mountain biking in the state, but it's for those intermediate and advanced levels. So to receive, I know normally when I first heard beginner-friendly trails, I'm like, oh, well, those would be the easiest to build. No, because our mountains actually make it a little bit more difficult, and it's more expensive to make a beginner-friendly trail system. So as we're able to advance in that, one, it allows us to create a stronger local community that buys into mountain biking, and when your community buys into it, and we've been very fortunate that they have so far, then you're really able to create something special and a whole different level of branding. It also allows us to welcome in the KIMBA, the Kentucky Mountain Biking Association, which caters to youth tournaments, and we'll talk about sports tourism here in just a little bit also, but it would allow us then to open up a whole different sector of tournaments for youth that we're not quite able to do just yet based on our skill level. So keep that in the back of your mind as we continue on. You guys also are probably pretty familiar with the Prestonsburg Passage. You all are a big reason we've been able to bring that to fruition, and it is everything we hope for and more. And I know Mayor Stapleton is extremely proud of it and very happy that we have this. So, of course, the Prestonsburg Passage is a 9-mile paved rail-to-trail that runs from Prestonsburg to David, Kentucky. It was supported by the Abandoned Mines Grant and has just gone above and beyond. There's not a single day, I think, since it's been open that it hasn't had a plethora of people on it, especially when it comes to cyclists, and actually really fostered a whole new sector of cyclists in our community and in our region. And going forward, we are so excited for the support that the Dawkins Trail has just received to pave their trail. And what we hope, as we can be innovative and forward thinking, is that one day we can have a system or a process in place to connect the passage to the Dawkins Trail line. And I know as we're very excited on the news of the continued Mountain Parkway expansion, whether it be the new route or the old route, there's a lot of options there of how we connect it. And we hope to see a system similar to New York State, which has a rail-to-trail system of hundreds of miles that they weren't all made at one time. They were connected over a series, but now you have an entire pathway throughout an entire state, and we hope to be able to be a part of that and see that in our own state as well. I will share quickly, this is also an image from the Prestonsburg Passage. This was actually taken before the passage was completely finalized, and well, it's not finished yet, it's always ongoing. But this is an image, Adam Williamson, who is a Prestonsburg resident. So the mission of the passage was that it would be accessible to all people. And if it wasn't accessible to everybody, it wasn't worth building. And so there were so many phases along the way that Mayor Stapleton would bring community members out of all ages, of all backgrounds, skill levels, and just have them experience the passage and see what was that like. Is it what it needs to be? And so we had Adam come out, and he's been in a wheelchair his entire life, and I'll never forget what he shared after he went on. He said, "This is the very first time in my entire life I've been able to experience nature this close by myself." The Prestonsburg Passage has done everything we hoped it would be. So going on, I'm going to move through this quickly, but as we look at tourism, So our role, typically you see us being a marketing agency. We are a facilitator to bring people in our community through marketing and promotion. However, especially once 2020 hit for our own office and many other tourism offices, we've also kind of taken on the role of destination development. Product development, right? Because our towns are our development. And so to do that, we want it to be unique, authentic, desirable, and above all things, be safe for people. So these are just a couple of the projects that our office has been able to be behind. I don't think the other image popped up. All right, well, this is the ugly old sign. You can't see the new side on there. But we were able to receive grant funding as well as support within our own budget, repairing 5 new wayfinding signs throughout Prestonsburg. They now have beautiful colors and branding along the way throughout. We were also able to start installing new public art exhibits. We have one on the way in the next couple months right downtown in our new square. You'll see in the bottom corner, that's Mr. American Idol Noah Thompson. We were happy when he came on through, but bringing art to all people. And then one of our favorite, sorry, some of these images aren't coming up, but imagine in your head beautiful string lights down a downtown corridor. But we were able to install new string lighting throughout our main downtown stretch corridor with another phase coming shortly. And what our hope was to not only bring visual appeal, but to also make a space that was a little safer and comfortable for people to experience later in the day. Because we can't ask businesses to stay open later if people aren't going to come out for it. And almost immediately, not only did everyone start taking pictures with it and visiting and sharing downtown, but we started hearing, wow, I've always wanted to walk with my family or bike in the evening, and now I feel so much better doing that. And they've started doing it. And so we've seen businesses continue to stay open later too. So as I finish, I would love just, as we think of the future, I know Representative Lafferty mentioned this, and something that we are extremely excited about is ongoing partnerships with our state park facilities. I know you got to hear a lot of what they've been doing. I've got to plug our own Jenny Wiley. Yes, they are an amazing attraction, probably one of the best places to visit in the state. They're often ranked the #1 state resort park. They've been nothing short of angels on earth during this phase. They currently have over 150 people displaced there, and the entire staff is just going above and beyond. But not only are they fulfilling their duties with that, but they're still out here being a partner with us to tourism. Just the other day, we had our motor coach group out with several of their naturalists taking a tour on Dewey Lake and learning so much history about the park and still fulfilling the tourism sector of it. So what we hope to see come to fruition and continued support is the old golf course, 9-hole golf course that's on the state park. We hope to see that become a range for archery. Sports tourism in particular is a huge sector for Kentucky, and Prestonsburg has already done a phenomenal job of recruiting and winning bids for regional baseball, golfing, and soccer at our Stonecrest complex. But how do we continue to expand greater to attract the entire state and the tri-state area? We have 10 acres sitting there that's ready to do that, and that's through archery, which is one of the state's fastest growing sports, and it's one of the best drive market sports for us. So the state tournament alone for archery right now, they attract over 8,000 people, and the state organization serves over 400 schools. That's a lot of students needing a place to compete. So this land, if it does go through, and it's currently the only approved space at this time that would be able to serve an outdoor space for competitive high school and collegiate archery tournaments and competitions. So we hope to see that come to fruition. East Kentucky Archery, who is a Prestonsburg-based business and organization, they've already proven that it can be successful as they've hosted the IBO state tournament, which is archery-based, bow-based, and they welcome in hundreds of people over a 2-day range. And we love hearing the 2-day tournaments, right? That's optimal tourism. So we know it can be successful, and I know the city of Prestonsburg Tourism, we are committed to continuing being great partners in that. And so we're excited for what's here now and then what's to come in the future also. So thank you guys so much for allowing us the time to come in. I know there's a good keyword and buzzword that we always like to hear, and that's county lines and county boundaries, right? How do we break those down? Our motor coach actually mentioned it several times before they left. They said, this is amazing that we have never seen so many different communities worked so well together to give us such a great experience. And I don't know if they were extra aware of it where they're also Kentuckians, but numerous came up and said, wow, this is incredible how you guys work together. So if you want examples of how boundary lines are broken down in action, just look to tourism because it's happening now. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ashley, for bringing us in. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer anything you have.
Thank you all so much for a good, thorough report. May we go back to the Prestonsburg Passage of one of those two slides? Gorgeous. I love both of either one of those is fine. What was bouncing through my mind as you were talking about those two slides, now we know the debris cleanup and everything that's needed for like roadway travel. How much damage and debris have you had on this beautiful trail, and who's responsible for cleaning that up?
That would be our Parks Department. I've also been out cutting trees on it at any given time. Anytime we have a windstorm, there's damage. But we've been able to work with the golf course. Our park department does. We have a blower to blow the leaves off in the fall, and we have a crew that goes out every morning after any type of weather to clean it off. But we've never been held up more than 3 or 4 hours.
Very good. I was just hoping that hadn't been damaged beyond use or anything. Representative Kirk McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Les, this question will be directed to you. For several years now, the pool at Jenny Wiley State Park has been closed due to they stole literally the copper lines out of it. But that was such an asset. I know I worked down the street, and we'd even go up and swim on our lunch hour for 30 minutes. It's a major asset, and I know that people came from other counties to use that pool there at the park. Is there any plans, and is there anything that we can do to get that pool back open? Because it's a beautiful pool.
It's been closed about 19 years now.
Yeah, I know.
So it is really it's degraded to the point of we just about have to rebuild the entire infrastructure of it. But I was literally yesterday in there with a group. Then we're looking at probably a pretty large splash pad. We already have the lagoon there.
Yeah.
Where we put sand on the beach, we open the beach up, we put some obstacle courses out there, but we're probably looking at a splash pad. There's going to be such an extensive overhaul to be able to get it back to being a pool. It's financially out of reach.
Yeah, I haven't been down there for probably several years, but it was just such an asset to that park. And, I never have shut up about it. Anytime. I even hustled Greg Sumbo, whoever was in charge down there. But I worked in Floyd County, but I have a lot of extended family there. I spend a lot of time in Floyd County. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. Have you considered maybe a wave pool or something to that? That would accommodate all age groups?
I've looked at possibly any option we could do there. And if we leave it in a pool situation, we're literally going to take all the concrete out, re-pour it, redo all the infrastructure. The cost is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But to utilize it as a splash pad, we basically just tear the bottom out, we fill it in, and then put a splash pad in. Yeah. Again, like I said, the Dewey Lagoon, we have places so they can swim in the lake. We test the lake weekly to assure that it's in compliance for sanitary swimming. And we've actually got some more projects that are going on around it that will add to it, but the splash pad will allow for most accessibility by the most people.
Okay. Thank you.
To that point, we're seeing that in a lot of local communities all across the state. The more reasonable construction costs, the liability costs, the lifeguarding costs, the maintenance, splash pads seems to be the way that most local communities are going now. Representative Stevenson.
Hey there. So I grew up in neighboring Knott County, and one of the highlights of every single summer of my childhood into adulthood was the Jenny Wiley Theater. And I know that there was some drama surrounding that a couple years ago, but what's going on with the amphitheater there at the park? And are there any plans to try to get Broadway production type shows back?
Yeah. Did you want to answer?
Yeah, if you don't mind. That was going to be condemned. I got a call on a Thursday night, and I was in the commissioner's office the next morning at 7:15. Never left. We had a lease in place for that. To be able to bring a Broadway production in, the expense would be way out of bounds for us to be able to do it and be physically responsible. But what we do have is we have a community theater that operates from Prestonsburg all the way through to the Breaks Park. They put on productions that are second to none, and I would tell you all, if you want to learn about the history of the Hatfield McCoys, you need to come see Blood Song. It is done by actual descendants of the Hatfields and McCoys. It's the only story that was signed off on by the state, by the Hatfields, and by the McCoys. And it's a show that actually uses the court records for some of the documentation. You should come out and join us. We do it all through the summer. I think we're through for this season. But we do have some stuff going on at Gearhart Communications with this same community group. So we always have stuff going on in the theater.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, so yes, we've been able to partner with Artist Collaborative Theater for not only shows, but also educational programs now. So how do we bring youth up to allow them to be a part of it? And it's been a multi-regional partnership to do that. One of the best things that has come out of that transition is now the amphitheater is working as Jenny Wiley Amphitheater, so a venue versus a standalone company. And with that, we've now been able to introduce concerts, storytelling nights, and so the amphitheater, if you've never been there, you're surrounded on all sides by the mountains. It is one of the best acoustic musical experiences I have ever had, and it's one of my favorite places. So the Mountain Arts Center has somewhat taken it under their wing. So they've been doing concerts. We've had to postpone this year due to all the incidents happening in the area, but next year we're excited to be back with the Appalachian Strings and Things Music Festival, as well as ongoing shows. But I will say it's a venue that I hope we can receive ongoing support with, because there needs to be a little love in TLC, and we have some great community groups that are partnering in to try and make that happen, little steps along the way. But for example, Broadway touring shows, and it's the same issue we have with the Mountain Arts Center, is the biggest clause for a touring show is you have to have a very specific and high skill fly system. So what you can run everything in and out on, and the system there now would not accommodate that. So that, for example, and a roof over the theater, those are needs that need to come along for us to be able to move in that direction that we hope to see. So some negatives, but also a lot of positives that came out of it as well. Yeah.
Any other questions from attending members? Representative Lafferty, this is your presentation. Do you have anything else for this group, or would you like to transition?
I would like to transition, but before I do, I'd like to say that, we kept money in the budget for speaking about focusing on the future. We already have great hiking, biking, we have the kayaking. We already have great trails such as that, but we're also focusing on the ATV trail system. And I'm very excited to say that Floyd County was the first county of, I think it's 19 counties that encompasses, and we were the first county to sign on, so hopefully we'll be making progress there soon.
Excellent.
Yes.
Please keep us updated on that.
I certainly
I'm
will.
going to put you in charge of that. You keep us updated on that.
I certainly will. I'll be happy to. And next we'll move to the city of Pikeville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Well, we appreciate you traveling up and spending the afternoon with us. Now we'll travel over to Pikeville.
I'm going to give the chair here to the mayor and the center so he can introduce his tourism guests, and we will learn about all the great things in the city of Pikeville. Thank you.
And then we'll come back to you for a closing. Thank you all for coming, being here with us today. There's a little button on your microphone. If it's illuminated green, we'll be able to hear you. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jimmy Carter. I am the mayor of Pikeville, and an honor to be here today to present our tourism in Eastern Kentucky, and like with Prestonsburg, talking about taking down the barriers. It is really a good thing, because we continue to work together with those motor coaches And like Representative Tackett Lafferty said, from the Red River Gorge to the breaks, everything in between is unbelievable. And people don't realize that they could spend a week of vacation time and going from one end to the other, or a weekend. Is a very there's so much to do in Eastern Kentucky that people don't realize. But I'll quit and let to my right is Paul Bowles. He's the executive director of tourism and Appalachian Wireless Arena, so he's got a big shoe. And then we got Lauren McCourt, who is our new assistant tourism director, who's been around for a year or so now.
Just 7 months, not
seems like she grows on you. It seems like a year, but she's gonna let Lauren make the presentation. So thank you all again.
Yes, thank you guys for having us. Like you was talking about with breaking the barriers, I went to school in Paintsville, well, Johnson Central, but it's in Paintsville. I go to church in Prestonsburg, and now I work in Pikeville. So, I like to say I support the region. Pikeville pays me, but I like to support Eastern Kentucky. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for having us. So Eastern Kentucky, it has a lot going for us, but I've tried to highlight today on things that make us stand out in tourism. So that's our outdoor recreation, our Appalachian heritage, our arts and culture, and our entertainment. So first, I'll start with our outdoor recreation. I feel like it's always been a huge deal. However, with COVID happening, it's only the silver lining of COVID is people want to be outdoors more. And so that has helped our outdoor recreation tremendously. So whether that's our horseback riding trails, our new Storybook Trail that we have teamed up with our local library, we change books each month. That kind of gives our community of all ages to be a part of that. We have a fairy tea party I went to a couple weeks ago at the Storybook Trail. Everyone is like, "Oh, Lauren, your job's so hard. You have to go to a fairy tea party," which I enjoyed quite a lot. And hopefully there's no Hatfields in here, but we do have a new trail called the Real Mccoy Trail. It is about 5 miles long, our outdoor recreation. So you can blame him if you are a Hatfield that he named it, not I. But it's 5 miles long, and it overlooks the whole city of Pikeville. You can kind of see it in the bottom left right there. But it is a challenging trail. It's not just like your simple walk to grandma's house. It's pretty challenging, and so we're hoping to bring in a lot of different experienced hikers from all over the state and all over the nation to try this one out, to see if they are a true real Mccoy. Also, as you know, we have the eighth wonder of the world, our cut-through project, and actually you can now kayak through it. We have a company called Muddy Boots, and they provide kayaks, which you can bring your own if you have them. But you get to go right through the cut-through project and see it. And I got to go through it the other day since I had just moved here in March. I started this job in March. I said, I can't promote something if I haven't done it yet. So I got the chance to spend a work day and go through the river. So I had to take some photos too for social media. But we have that, and we also provide paddle boats. So for the kids, who are younger, who may be a little scared of kayaking or just can't yet, we provide paddle boats as well in our very large pond, as well as fishing, of course, if they have their license. But we have a program now, I think it's a few years old, at our pond, and usually we bring about 500 kids or more each year fishing for kids. And so we have one of our locals who decided he wanted to have this event. So he has teamed up with the city, and we've just been able to, provide fishing poles to people who, to kids, and young kayaks to kids as well. And so we're extremely proud of that, and we hope to see it grow in the future. So our Appalachian Heritage. I know you guys have heard of Hillbilly Days, and if you haven't, you have maybe been under a rock, because it is a huge deal in our area and all over the state. It's one of the largest festivals in the state of Kentucky. So we're extremely proud of that. I think this year was the first year that we were able to have it after 2 years due to COVID, and I think we had about 150,000 people. So we had a pretty good turnout. We were very pleased with it. All our hotels were booked. I'm pretty sure in Floyd County as well. Their RV park and our RV park and it was, well, if you guys want to come this year, I would start making reservations now, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But, we're extremely proud of our heritage. I remember being a young kid and almost kind of being, I hate to say this, but I was kind of like embarrassed to almost say I was from Eastern Kentucky, But now it's like it's trendy to be Appalachia. And I'm so proud of where I've come from and our area and how much we've grown and that people are willing to hear us out, and that we're not some no shoes wearing hillbillies or whatever, but we have shoes and we are hillbillies and we're still proud, So we have that. We have our Big Sandy Heritage Museum that we you could see on my right here. We had a presentation a couple of weeks ago for the Hatfield and McCoy's Day. And it's a small museum, but we had about 50 or so people come from all over from different states to get to see and get to hear some of the descendants of the Hatfield and McCoys. We had them in the same room and they were fine. So we like to bring them together, since hopefully that feud is over. We're not trying to spark it back. So, but we're very grateful that, people are still interested in things like that. Let me see. Okay, our arts and culture. So moonshine is a part of our culture, legal and illegal. But we are able to have our Moonshine Music and Makers Festival. We had our second annual one this year. And it went extremely well. We had artists from across Appalachia. We had legal moonshine there, and we also had artisans too who make all kinds of different things. We just like to showcase our talent that we have here in Appalachia. Let me see. Also, if you guys want to ever add anything too, I know I can talk, so. So we have arts and entertainment, and we have the Appalachian Center for the Arts. So this is actually one of my favorite things that we have in the city. We bring people in from all over to perform, like professional actors, but also we give a chance to for our local people to showcase their talent, because there's a lot of talent in the mountains. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are from there or what, but as you can see with Chris Stapleton, Tyler Childers, Loretta Lynn, have to give her a shout out. I'm from Van Leer, so. But anyways, yeah, so we have a lot of talent. So we're so grateful to have the app, is what we call it, for a chance to showcase not only bring people in from across the nation, but to showcase our locals on a professional level. So their grandma and grandpa can come watch them, and don't have to travel, all the way to Lexington or Louisville. They can watch it just as good of a production right here, right downtown Pikeville. So we have a lot of downtown entertainment as well. This Saturday, if you guys are free, we have the Hoptoberfest. So it's a craft beer festival. I think this is the second or third year for it, but the city and a local brewery have teamed up to create this festival. And we're bringing in brewers from across the nation as well. So that should be really exciting. It's at the Appalachian Wireless Arena. So there's not only concerts that go on there. We have festivals. We had a rodeo this past March that sold out 2 nights. So we're very proud of that. They're coming back this March, so make sure you get your tickets. It was the place to be in Eastern Kentucky that night. But we offer all of this and so much more. We offer free music in the summer on Fridays for locals or people who are visiting, and to showcase our talent that we have there too. So we offer, food, drinks, and live music, just right downtown. So the stores stay open a little bit later. People come out. It's just a good way to get people downtown. And I think we appreciate it a lot more now than we did a few years ago. Being around people, it's different now. And I feel like we're so much more grateful. Tourism Tuesdays, if you guys have social media, make sure you follow. I started this. It's just a little 3 to 5 minute video. I try to highlight a different business, activity, or local artist. You can see me. I'm in a salt cave there. We have a store called Moonlight Pathways, and they sell like crystals and things like that. So we try to do a lot of unique stores. We have very unique stores in our area and restaurants and things like that. So we just try to give them a 3 to 5 minute video every Tuesday. They're released, and so they're on our social media. So if you guys want to check out what we have, that's a great way to do that. And I also like making them because I get to experience a lot of things too. Our social media accounts, like I said, our Facebook is Pikeville Tourism, and we have over 39,000 followers, almost 40. So if you all don't follow it, please do. Maybe we can hit that mark. Our Instagram account has a little over 2,000. Our Twitter has 800, and our new TikTok, which seems to be the huge thing now. I started that a couple weeks ago, and we already have over 1,000 followers. And so I enjoyed doing that and getting to just like showcase the just beautiful Appalachia, basically, and the people there. I think it's a great platform to do so. And I just want to say thank you guys for your support. And this is the first time I've done something like this, so this is very exciting for me. And I'm just very grateful to be here and to be a part of Pikeville. They welcomed me with open arms. I didn't know anyone when I first moved there, but now we're best friends. Well, I would like to think that. But, so you guys are more than welcome to come down to Pikeville. We would love to have you. I think the mayor has a guest bedroom. I have a guest bedroom. You all can stay with us. More the merrier. But, again, just thank you guys.
Be glad to answer any questions that anybody would have.
Would you like to give a presentation too?
Well, I thank you all
Some
for
remarks.
inviting
Excellent
us
job.
here. But one thing I'd like to point out to that Moonshine Makers Festival, in concert we had Jamie Johnson with Blackberry Smoke, and they donated their earnings that night to the East Kentucky Flood Relief, which is somewhere around $80,000 was donated to East Kentucky Dream Center and another organization that
Pikeville.
I've completely drawn a
Yeah.
but I just wanted to point that out. It was very nice of Jamie Johnson to do that.
Is there a little sporting event that's going to happen in Eastern Kentucky? Flooding that's...
You might, we're talking about that on the way down.
Yeah, we're not sure. I think there's a dance competition this weekend, but we're not sure how that's going to take place yet or not. The what?
Cats, Kentucky.
Oh, that game.
I was trying to lob you a softball there.
You're a couple weeks ahead. We work on event days, non-event days. So, yeah, we're hosting the Blue-White game on October 22nd in the arena, which should be very exciting. Tickets go on sale some point next week, and no, I really can't give you any favors.
No, we're not looking for any.
I don't have access to them. But it should be interesting. The very next night, we're hosting WWE Live in the arena. So it's going to be a fun, wild weekend in Pikeville.
Very good. We do have 2 questions, starting with Senator Wheeler.
I just want to take a moment to brag on my hometown. I grew up in Pikeville, and Mayor Carter. I think Pikeville is one of the jewels of Eastern Kentucky. I mean, it's really shown what is possible with diversifying your economy and actually looking towards new ways of building an economy in Eastern Kentucky. Also would give a shout out to Mayor Les Stapleton. He's originally an Elkhorn City guy where my wife grew up, and he's done a wonderful job in Prestonsburg as well. Some people may not know, but I actually practiced law with Representative Lafferty for about 18 years, so we're very familiar with the region. And it does have a lot to offer. I think so many people think of Eastern Kentucky, they think of coal, heavy industry, which is still a very important part, and we'd love it to be even a bigger part of our national conversation. But not only that, it's just a region of wonderful beauty. And I think the more people that are beginning to see that, especially in the aftermath of the pandemic, where more people are looking for outdoor adventures and things like that, I think it's really opened the eyes of some people in many ways to the possibilities for economic development in the eastern part of our state. Mayor Carter and the commission during this difficult time we had with the flooding, Pikeville thankfully was spared for the most part, but to see the volunteer efforts of the commission. I know Allison Powers, one of the commissioners, was up in Neon constantly. Mayor Carter was right there on the ground, and even our tourism officials offering the Appalachian Wireless Arena as a marshaling location to get the supplies out to the needy families in the area. They just did a remarkable job on that, and made me very grateful for their leadership, and also very proud to be from Pikeville in eastern Kentucky. So I'm very grateful to have you all down here today. And Ms. McCoy, it sounds like you're fitting into that job wonderfully. And I also recently picked up Johnson County, so I look forward to talking to you about Johnson County as well and some of its needs. I think that one of the things that Pikeville and Prestonsburg and some of the other counties in eastern Kentucky have started showing is a more regional viewpoint on our economy, and I believe that presentations like this to sort of showcase the possibilities of our region to other state is exactly what we need for further development. And I want to thank my colleague Representative Lafferty and our chairman Kim King for allowing us to do this presentation here today. So thank you all.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Wheeler, interestingly enough, Representative Tackett Lafferty and I had planned this even prior to your all's devastating flooding, so it was just a very appropriate time for you to come and update us. Representative Kirk McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to commend all of you on the job that you're doing. As you know, I was elected in the 93rd District, which is Pike in Martin County, as the state representative. And I covered everything from Belfry all the way to Elkhorn City, all that area. And there's just, I've watched the progress over the past 6 years that I've been running for office in that territory. And so happy to see, and I actually enjoy, and I know that there's a lot of people that even come from Martin County, to shop, in the plazas there in Pikeville. And I'm excited to see where it goes. We have the UPike, we have the School of Optometry, and I know that we're working on bringing some other educational programs to UPike, and so I'm excited. I think there's a very bright future in Pikeville. Just to see, I covered the outlying areas of Pikeville. I had all the rural areas, but you're not that far away. Within 30 minutes, Pike County is the hugest county in the entire state. And I know we've lost a lot of population due to the war on coal and the decline in the economies, but I'm seeing it starting to slowly come back to life. And if we build it, they will come. So, the leadership, I'm hoping, will focus on more diversity in the economy there. Tourism is great. It won't cut it for everything, but we need to try to recruit some industry and things of that nature. So other industries, and we have the Kellogg plant, which is a really good business and a company. And if the Kellogg plant has been there for over 20 years, others can come and survive. And they don't have a problem with employment because they always have people waiting in line for a job.
Absolutely.
So, I would encourage you to focus on that avenue in economic and development. But I want to say, keep up the good work you're doing. And I will always be a part of Eastern Kentucky because in my career as a vocational rehab counselor, I covered 10 counties, but literally have worked 18 counties in the state of Kentucky in social services of some type. And Pikeville is the hub of Eastern Kentucky. There is lots of potential to grow. And I think the future is bright. So I just want to encourage you and thank you for your hard work and keep on doing.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate that. And, we do have a full state-of-the-art industrial park that has
Yes.
2 tenants at this point, another 450 acres to develop. We're working hard to try to get that over the hump, so to speak. I mean, we've come close several times, but we know it's there. It's just a matter of time to figure out who that
Yes.
right fit's going to be, and like you said, there will be no chance of not having enough workers.
Absolutely.
These displaced coal miners, as you all know, have the skills of everything, and they can do anything. So
Absolutely.
we're looking forward to that day when we can continue to push forward on that.
Well, I'll follow up. With the decline in our population, the people have left because they were the working class people primarily, and they had to leave for jobs in order to be able to provide for their families. But if the opportunity presents itself, they will come back.
Yes.
I have so many people, when they just hear of something coming to Eastern Kentucky that's migrated out for work and employment, they'll contact me and ask me about it. And if it's a good fit or if it's a good, secure job, then, I encourage them, put an application in. But we want to make sure that one of the things that's frustrated me as a vocational rehab counselor, and, the outcome has to be once you get a consumer through the program, you have to help them with employment. I was very frustrated at some of the programs that the prior administrations has brought in, like Sykes and these short-term telemarketers. They would keep their employees for 6 months. By the time they were eligible for benefits, they'd let them go, and then pull in new people. Well, that's terrible. We need long-term, sustainable, economic employment opportunities for our people, and I hope as leaders, you guys will focus strongly on that.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Pfister.
Thank you. I'll be brief, but I just want to thank you all for what you're doing and commend you for what you're doing. There's a big difference from town to town and county to county among people, and to bring your region together the way you are, it's really a great thing. Know a little bit about being out there. My youngest son lived in Pikeville for a couple of years, used to grouse hunt over in Johnson County some, and y'all got a beautiful area, and I appreciate what you're doing to sell it. And then I want to give a little shout out to the guys that have already left from Fish and Wildlife. The Archery in the Schools program that you all referred to actually was a program that started in Fish and Wildlife, and it spread nationally. So keep up the good work. Anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
Thank you.
Representative Pollack.
Thank you so much. It's obviously the whole committee meeting today has been very productive. Thank you for the information. When I think of Eastern Kentucky, I do think of outdoor recreation and beautiful golf courses you guys have up there as well. But obviously, I am a big Blue fan. I'm a big WWE fan. So, Mayor, my question to you is, that extra room you have, will it be available that weekend?
Absolutely. Just let me know.
I'll talk to you after we
All
get
right.
finished.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Tackett Lafferty, would you please come up for some closing remarks? We appreciate you putting these presenters together today, and your area continues to be in our thoughts and our prayers. And
thank you,
please
Representative.
proceed.
I will just keep it very brief. I just want to thank you for being here throughout our presentation today. And, Eastern Kentucky, we really need to focus on better infrastructure, economic development, and tourism. Those are some major factors that are going to contribute to a successful future, and I think we are all committed to just that. And hopefully as we rebuild after the flood, we will, with our scenic beauty and all the other things we have to offer, our wonderful workforce, hopefully Eastern Kentucky will be our next big success story here in the Commonwealth. But thank you very much for allowing us to present today, and we greatly appreciate the time.
Well, we appreciate you and your efforts in putting this together, and we know the Mountain Caucus will keep us updated, and we look forward to all of those updates. Thank you all so much. If, like me, the committee members like to go ahead and plug entries in their phone, our October meeting date will be the 27th, and in November, the 17th. So if you want to go ahead and add those entries to your phone. And finally, just before we adjourn, I would just like to publicly thank Senator Embry for his service. When I first started my tenure here, he was one of my mentors. He and Miss Wanda, just a good Christian public servant, and I just wanted to publicly thank him for his service. Would anyone make a motion to adjourn? And I see all of those accommodations there. Have a great